Hey, it's Gavin with Haverstick Designs, and today we're at Mitch Gallagher's house, and we're going to check out his home studio. And we're currently in the best treated hallway there ever was. I think it's a sign of respect anytime an acoustical consultant visits your house to line it with acoustical panels on the way to your studio. So that's a very nice touch. Let's go check it out. Hey, Mitch.
Oh, Gavin, did I leave the door unlocked?
I think so. I think that was, it's kind of weird that I was just in your house.
Just happened to be standing out in the hallway. Yeah, yeah. Well, welcome. Great to see you.
Thank you. This was a really fun project to be a part of. Appreciate you getting us involved.
Well, man, I was so excited to have you be part of this, and the results speak for themselves. It's fantastic. Thanks to all your efforts and your expertise.
Yeah, it's interesting, it's been a little while since I first came here to do initial testing of the space. Like when I walked in, it's still a tile floor, but we have this nice carpet in here and there's drywall walls, drywall ceiling, glass front wall, and taking measurements in this room. Basically what we found was it's a untreated bedroom size studio. Yeah. So just to verify how poor these rooms can be when they start, and to have a baseline of where we begin with all of our models and treatment. And even since last time I was here, there's some new elements that are in the room and
things are, studios are never done.
Right.
They're always changing.
Yeah, and one thing that I need to know more about is the black sheep that's over here.
Ah, yes. Well, my wife is a designer and she finds me all kinds of cool stuff. So this is Black Sheep Studios. That is the namesake of the studio. That and the cassette pillow are my favorite things.
Those are the things. And the floor mat, you've got the Gallagher amp.
You got to personalize your space.
One of the big things you told me when we started was that you didn't want to do any construction, and isolation wasn't a big priority, and you wanted to try to keep it to products that were more off-the-shelf items,
right?
Versus trying to build custom bass traps and custom diffusers and things like that.
Yeah, my wife and I are serial renovators.
Yeah.
I've mentioned that several times, but it is true. We don't tend to stay in a house for real long.
Yeah.
And I have built out studios in the past and done a whole bunch of that, and then we move. So I was curious to get back to, let's take a room, let's buy stuff off the shelf, let's install it with the help of an expert, tell us where to place it, and let's see what we can get. And man, the results are really great.
Yeah, it is. And I think while it's nice to do custom treatment and you can, take care of, I typically say it's like that last 10, 15% of the final details of a room. I mean, you can get 80, 85% of the way there with off-the-shelf treatments, take care of first reflection points, get some bass trapping in here, some diffusion in the back, and just have a really nice space that didn't take as much effort as some of those other things.
Right, and much more affordable kind of a approach as well for that consideration. I am not going to try to tell anyone that it wouldn't be better if we hadn't come in and built soffits and done, all kinds of stuff and done all of that. But as you mentioned, my goal, I came into this thinking, man, I'll be thrilled if we can get 75% of the way to there. And I think we've exceeded that.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's enough technology that I can apply with the room tuning software and hardware to get me even closer to that point that to where the room just performs really well.
Walk me through a little bit about your workflow and what you like in your studio at home, because everybody's is different, and I think everybody would be curious about what you prefer.
Yeah, well, I try to set my studios up so that everything is very instantly accessible.
Yeah.
I don't like for there to be a break in the creative flow. If I'm in the middle of something, I don't want to have to get up and go in the closet and try to find a cable or try to find a whatever, pencil, So one of the key things for me is having a little bit of storage at my workspace. So I've got drawers in my studio desk that have a quick cable, a quick power supply for a pedal, a quick, whatever, so I can just reach down and grab things and try to make things as hands-on and instantly accessible as possible. I have multiple places I can control things. So I've got the computer, obviously, and the mouse and the keyboard, but I've also got the SSL control surfaces, which to me are integral because I can really, first of all, it looks and feels like a studio.
Yes.
But it also gives you so much hands-on ability to not be always doing everything with your eyes.
Right.
That you can do more with your hands and that tactile kind of thing. And I expand on that with my iPad as a remote as well. In Pro Tools, I'm running Avid Control, and with Studio One, I've got their control app as well. And so I have a lot of control options to get hands-on with things. Again, I don't have to break the flow.
Right.
to do things.
I think that's the biggest thing, because a lot of times you have inspiration, and then if you just get frustrated in the process of making that idea come to life, like you're just done with it.
Inspiration is very fragile.
Yeah.
And so you want to make sure that it stays safe.
Yeah, I also love how the things that you've set up in the room, you've got some of these racks from Rab Audio for your guitar pedals, which I'm jealous of. You have, I have one pedal board, and that's all I've got. I've somehow kept the gear acquisition syndrome to a minimum over the years.
Well, good for you.
And these aren't even all of them. There's, you know.
Yeah,
I'm sure in your line of work, it's hard to.
It is, working in the candy store, it's hard not to get fat.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good analogy.
Bob just did a fantastic job building these from RB Audio. He made the desk also. It's a custom desk, and then we were talking about matching furniture to have some amp heads and the pedals, and yeah, it's kind of a collection that I've been building for a long time. I have 3 pedal boards, one for when I do my church gig, one for my yacht rock band, and one for my jazz band, and my approach to that is I actually have separate gear for each of those gigs. So I know that when I'm going to go play with the yacht rock band, I grab these bags, this pedal board, all the cables I need are there, everything is there, and I never have to wonder, did I forget that adapter? Did I remember that one silly cable that I've got, whatever. And so I've got all those, but then what I wanted is an assortment of pedals that would give me a whole range of different tone colors and options, and I of course I just love pedals.
Yeah, right.
You can never have too many pedals. I'm trying to scale down a little bit actually. I'm trying to, my goal is to make the pedals fit in these 2 RB Designs racks, RB Audio rather, racks that Bob came up with for me, and these are just fantastic for organizing, and I love that you can see.
Yeah.
Because if everything is hidden away, if it's in a box, if it's under stuff or whatever,
never use it.
I'm never going to use it.
Right.
So it's got to be visible. It makes dusting a little bit more of a challenge, but you got to keep up.
And I think it's a great rule to, if everything fits within these. Now, I will say that I'm a vinyl collector, and I bought these 2 custom vinyl shelves, and I said, okay, hey, they're like these pull-out drawers, and you could fit a ton of records in there. And I told myself when these were filled, then
that's it.
I'm done. Now there's IKEA shelves in my office and my home.
Yep.
So it doesn't always work, but I think you have enough space. You could probably fit one more of these.
Well, don't tempt me.
That's awesome. And then you got another one here just for amp heads too.
Yeah, again, instant accessibility on all this. And so there's 2 different ways I can record very easily here. One is the amps, and then I've got a walk-in closet here where I can have a speaker cabinet with microphones on it and do the fun thing there, and the authentic recording that way, if you will. But I also can drive with the Synergy system, which is a modular system. You can pop these modules out, and it basically becomes a new amplifier with each new module you put in there. And I've got a power amp for that'll drive a cabinet, or I can run those direct through like an aux stomp. I've got the aux, so I can record direct from my amps as well. So whatever's going to make it easy and fast is the approach that I like to take.
Sure.
And sometimes I really prefer the sound of the direct stuff going through a processor or whatever. Sometimes I really want the acoustically mic'd kind of thing. So this gives me the option, and having, again, very organized, and everything's always connected, and so it's just super easy to make stuff work.
Yeah, when I first arrived, we took some physical measurements. I wanted to be able to draw this in CAD, and then our team also put it into SketchUp so that we could later do some renderings. But the main thing first is just know what we're dealing with. And the nice thing about rectangular rooms, as you know, they're very ultra predictable. Like you can put those in a room mode calculator and figure out, here's the areas where we're going to struggle based on where the speakers and the mix position are. But the first thing first was just getting physical measurements of everything so we could start to model it for you. And then, again, working through what type of treatment do we want to put in here. We did a lot of things that were kind of off-the-shelf, readily available products, and they all work great in here. We'll start with the ceiling clouds from Prime Acoustic, and I love how you mounted them with these curtain rods. And
that was my wife's brilliant idea. She's a designer, and I was struggling with how to hang those up and not have a ton of holes in the ceiling and all of that kind of stuff. And she's like, just put a curtain rod up there and hang them off rings, and they'll just clip right on, and it works great.
Amazing idea, which we will steal for other projects. Because with these panels, with how they're multiple panels, you would end up having I would guess at least 30 holes in your ceiling.
Well, there's 16 panels, and if you had even 3 per panel, that's
easy. So
lots of holes in the ceiling.
That's great, and it gives you that air gap, to help with the performance of the panels themselves, and they just look nice. Like, a really good job with that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and then also on the walls here and in the corners, we have the Fulfil panels from Acoustical Fulfillment, and they can be mounted in either configuration, either walls, ceiling, or in a corner. And on the walls here, you can see that there is a 2-inch air gap. So you have the wall back here, and then 2 inches of air gap with these special clips that is 2-inch offset impalers. Then you have the panel here, and it does 2 things. It increases the performance of the panel, which we always love, acoustical performance, but then it just makes it look cool. It's like all the shadows that you see with it compared to just having it flat on the wall. I know you're talking about potentially adding lights behind it. That could even
possibly
be another thing.
But yeah, just having that added depth, it gives the space more character.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this before, just when we've been chatting or whatever, but how a room feels and how it looks, at least to me, really has an impact on how much I enjoy working on it. I'm going to spend so much time in here. I want it to be cool. And I have to say, with those spaced impalers, really easy to install, but the real treat was installing the corner panels because, man, I have struggled with some of the other mounting systems and stuff, and these use a really cool wood. You just mount it right into the corner and pop those on there and you're done. Yeah,
makes it simple. I mean, I'm always looking for those kind of simple solutions because, a lot of us were musicians. We're not handy people. Like, I am handy with, like, I have a mechanical engineering degree and I like doing that type of stuff, but a lot of people don't, and so with this, if you can use a screw gun, you can take care of it and have them installed in minutes. So
no, it really was cool. Really was very simple. One tip I'll pass along is I did go buy myself some of those laser level things so that you could run those and just put all of the things at the right, so everything lines up, nice and spaced as well as I could space them and all that. But that made it so much easier. I did like a grid on the ceiling. I had 3 of them with a grid crossing, so I knew where to put the points to mount the curtain rods and stuff. And,
that's awesome.
And so just those little things make things a lot easier.
Yeah, it's wild too how much of an impact the tile floor has on a room. Like, even if this was hardwood, it wouldn't have been as bouncy as it is. But I think this area rug, I mean, all these things are things you can add just to make it a little bit better and suit it for your needs. But I will say, like, having a tile floor is even better than having a fully carpeted floor, because then you're one-trick pony. Like, all you have is a dead floor. Like, if you ever wanted to track classical guitar or something like that in here, you could roll back this and have a little bit more of a ambience.
Right, yeah, so it gives you a little bit more flexibility.
That's great. And then, the back of the room is treated a little bit differently. I mean, it's not different for a lot of studios. There's diffusion on the back wall of a lot of studios, but in your case, we wanted to make sure that the room wasn't too dead, but then also give you the ability to face these diffusers if you're doing acoustic guitar or something like that. A lot of people like to, in their mixing chair, just to be able to spin around and track something, and having a back wall that's not overly dead is a great thing. So we have these part science diffusers that are on the back wall, like one on each of the doors and then a couple over there. Just really nice, even scattering back into the room, makes the room sound very, very natural.
It makes it feel good too. If the room gets too dead, it feels like it sucks the life out of everything that you're doing. And so this combats those reflections that you might hear, but still gives the room enough space that it feels like you feel comfortable. Yeah, I think it makes it really flexible. I think this is a great way to treat a project studio, is that if you're doing a lot of things in one room, having kind of a live end, dead end situation is pretty common and practical. Yeah, right. No, and they look cool. Yeah, they look really cool. Yeah, and if you have a thimble collection, like, you can just put those up on the shelves and it'd be fine. There you go. Yeah. I guess I should start one. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, every trip that you make, just try to find. Can you find thimbles anymore? I have no idea. I don't even know if that's a thing. And then you got to have my patron saint Alan Holdsworth on the wall. There we go. To keep watch over what's going on. But yeah, it's been really cool. We were talking, maybe I'll add a couple more panels, over the pedal racks to tame just a little bit more of those parallel surfaces. Yeah, previously I think the other racks were a little bit taller. Yeah. With these being a little shorter, and it's crazy how it works out. But one of those panels will fit perfectly with the same spacing that you had before. I know. You planned it. Another thing about being comfortable in the room is the windows here. Like having these thick, dense curtains can really help with absorption over this window when you're doing anything critical, but also just to be able to leave it open when you're just listening to music or playing around in here. Just
changes the vibe completely.
Natural light is so important. And the key there that you passed along to me is that we need to have enough folds in those to make them effective. And so there's actually 8 curtain, 4 sets of curtain panels up there, which you normally wouldn't put on a window, but that allows you to still have the folds, and when they're opened up, it's actually a nice little absorption behind the speakers as well. So that has worked really, really well. But you don't have to go crazy and buy, these huge custom made things or whatever. My wife found these beautiful curtains. They're lined, they're heavier.
Yep.
And so they work very effectively, and having enough of them is really the key.
I usually ask people, like, what do your friends think when they come into this room? However, most of your friends work at a place that has an awesome studio or has an awesome studio of their own. But I mean,
I always get positive comments.
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, when I walk in here, I just feel like, yeah, this is like, for what I do, like I play in a band and like to record demos or mix some things, this would be the type of thing I'd put in my space. I wouldn't, even though we do go overboard a lot, I probably would do something similar like this in my place.
Yeah, well, it's more than functional. I mean, it's a fantastic space to work in, and maybe the gear's a little over the top, but it's the same thing that anyone could have in a bedroom.
Yeah.
And you can scale it to different points. To me, again, the critical thing to think about, and where you were integral to the project, was just making sure that the monitoring was as good as possible. So if you can really hear what's going on, then the rest of it's easy.
Tell me a little bit about choosing your monitors.
Yeah. So I had the luxury of trying a lot of different monitors in here, and quite honestly, any of them could have been fantastic. Yeah. I have worked with I have a set of the small Neumanns that I've used forever in little studios. And when I brought these in, I was like, that first of all, it just sounds familiar because I'm used to those monitors. But these just sounded right to me in this space. Some other monitors were a little too big. Some weren't quite big enough. Some just had a curve that just excited certain things in the room differently, because we didn't do any construction in here. We didn't, there's not serious bass trapping or anything like that. So we had to be a little careful. And I've got a subwoofer underneath the desk as well. It worked out really strange that right in the center of the wall is actually where that was the most even. You wouldn't expect it, but sometimes that's just the way that it works. Yeah. Right. And so that does extend the bottom end down very nicely. And that subwoofer does have room correction built into it. And then I've got 2 of the IK Multimedia room correction boxes as well. That's kind of just taking things that last little few percent to just tweak, especially in that very bottom end, because again, we didn't do construction. We didn't do any big bass trapping. Yeah,
I mean, ideally, if you can get the room flat without any of that, that'd be amazing, but that's not always the case. And so we're a big fan of getting the room the best you can, and then take that extra little step with correction. I guess, tell me a little bit too, like, what do you typically work on in this room?
So I use this room for a number of things, actually. Right now I am writing for my next release, and so I'm composing in here. The keyboards and virtual instruments and guitars and all that are part of that. I also do arrangements and charts for my 2 bands. Yeah. So I have a yacht rock band, and then I have a jazz band that does my originals as well as some other stuff. And so this is kind of the hub for all of the creative stuff for that, and for writing for my projects and things. I do some recording in here. I'm set up so I can do guitar, I can do acoustic, I can do electric, I can do vocals, I could do an overdub kind of thing. I did not set it up to do drum kit or any of those kind of things. I mean, first of all, I work at Sweetwater, and we have fantastic studios, so why would I duplicate that? And so I tried to keep it to what I do. I wanted it to be good enough sounding to be able to do a good mix in here and get it to the point where I feel like it's finished and I can hear things to edit them and all of that. So the monitoring was really critical to me. As I mentioned, I also wanted to, when we were first talking, I mentioned that I wanted a space also where I could just go and put music on and just bathe in it.
Yes, yeah, right.
So that was kind of part of it too. And the last component is, I do a lot of gear reviews and a lot of videos for Sweetwater. I wanted this to be a space where I could do prep for some of those videos, testing things out in a real world type application. We've also shot a few videos for Sweetwater here. Some different product things and stuff like that. So I expect you'll see more of that kind of stuff come out of here too. So it needed to be a multi-purpose space, but I've made the mistake in the past of trying to have studios that are more along the lines of a commercial studio, but it was in my house where I'm ready for anything and anything that could come in, and I just don't do that. And so I really tried to focus on the stuff that I needed to do. So the gear is tailored toward that. The room itself is tailored toward that. And the way things are set up is tailored toward me getting things done.
You have a lot of guitars.
I have a few. I'm a guitar player. I love guitars, and so yeah, it's been kind of fun to. I don't know. I like different ones for different things.
Yeah.
And you know, there's some acoustics. There's a baritone 12-string, different types of electrics. I've got a bass, so I can lay down a quick bass part.
Sure.
I've got more of a hollow body. I try to have some different examples of the different types. So that is one area where I like to be able to just grab. Oh, this needs a Tele. No, this needs a Les Paul. This needs a Les Paul with P90s. Or, you know, whatever it might be.
Do you have a favorite guitar? Is that even possible?
It is tough. I will say that one of my babies is being repaired. It fell over and the headstock broke off. So that's that one's not here.
That's a bad day.
That was a bad day. I just got this S.O.U.N.D on the end down here.
Yeah.
Man, it's just a fantastic guitar. So I'm playing that a lot lately.
The one right now.
That's the one I'm taking out for a lot of the live stuff because it's so versatile and plays so great. But yeah, so that's right now. That's kind of the number one.
Okay, that sounds good. Yeah, this is the type of room that, you know, it's size-wise, it's a typical bedroom studio. It's nothing super massive, but it is spacious enough that you don't feel like you're claustrophobic in this space.
Yeah, it's a little oversized for a bedroom. I think we're close to 15 by 15, which is not ideal to have that same thing there. So it's a good-sized bedroom, but it's not ridiculously huge and you know, enough space to have the stuff in here and big enough to where it feels good. But you know, I've had studios that were 10 foot by 10 foot and you can make that be perfectly acceptable and fun to work in as well. So you work with the space that you have, and that was kind of part of it here too, is this is what I have. This is the room that I have and let's make it work.
I love it. Yeah, like we get calls all the time from clients to just say, it's almost the tone of their voice when they start telling us what they have currently. It's like they're a little down about it.
And apologetic.
Yeah, right? and I always look for the bright side of things and like, what are the positives instead of what are the restrictions? Because like, why don't we just focus on that and make those better rather than you know, dwell on things that we can't change.
Right.
You know?
This room also has a very large walk-in closet that someday may be an amp recording room or even an overdub booth or whatever it might be. Right now it's a storage space, but you need that too. But so there were some reasons why I chose this particular room. You know, then we just decided to work within those constraints.
So one other thing I want to point out is that Sweetwater did an amazing video tour of your space, and you went rundown of a lot of the gear that you have in here.
Yeah.
And so we're definitely going to link that in the description of this video, and people can go check that out because I just thought that was fascinating to go through that process, and I know people are going to enjoy that.
Yeah, it's you know, we all love gear, right? The other thing in that video that I will point out is that we sat down with you in that video, and you had done before measurements in this room, both physical measurements as well as acoustic measurements. And then you did after measurements as well, and we compared some of the graphs and stuff. And so there's some really great educational material there. I learned so much from watching that.
No, I think that video was super well done, and I think it's a great testament of like what people can do in a space like this. Well, Mitch, really thank you for letting us come in and tour your space. I think it's beautiful. You've done a great job with it, and probably will inspire a lot of people to do the same.
Well, thank you for saying so. I hope so. You know, what you can do with a room and off-the-shelf treatment and a little bit of knowledge about where to place things and how to set things up can give you a really great studio without having to do a ton of expense or construction or any of that kind of stuff. And you know, having your advice was just, like I said before, just so integral to the results. So thank you. It's been a fun project.
Yeah, it really
to work on it, and comparing the before and after, it's so dramatic.
Oh man, it's great. Yeah, I think you're gonna enjoy this for years to come, or there'll be another one. Who knows?
We'll see. Time will tell.
Thanks again, Mitch.
You bet. Great to see you.